So let's talk about CSS Grid DevTools today. In Chromium, you can go to the Canary build and enable a couple of experiments and start using the Inspect Grid DevTools today. They show things like grid area names, grid line names, what's the height and width of a column, and there's a whole bunch of settings you can turn on and off. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through a couple of web pages, and you can just follow along and watch as I poke around and try things out. And I'm hoping that you leave comments that help us figure out exactly the type of UX that we need in here, or things that you see that are broken or whatever. So let's get started and just play. We're going to play today. To get started, if you haven't already turned on the experiments for your DevTools, you would do that by opening up a new tab, go to Chrome Flags, enable DevTools experiments. You can turn that on there. And when that is on, you can go to your settings cog over here, go to the experiments. You also might be able to hit shift a bunch of times, and that could, oh wait, no, holding shift shows these are the extra experimental experiments. So you go right, there's like layers of experiments here. You want just layer 2 out of 3 deep or whatever, and this is the check mark you're looking for right here. Enable new CSS grid debugging features. Boom. Once that's on, it will prompt you to restart your tools. And once your tools are restarted, which really you can just like close them and reopen them. That's a sufficient way of restarting your DevTools. You can now, well, here also I've rearranged some stuff. So I don't know if you knew this. You can pull tabs. Oh, let's see. Do I have to hold Control? Oh yeah, look, you Control click or right click and you can move a tab from the top to the bottom. Anyway, I'm a big fan because now I can sort of see my console or my sources here and my elements. And I've really enjoyed being able to control which one goes where. In fact, look, can I move to the top? Yeah, what's new? Here, what's new? You can go back over there. Anyway, okay, so back to Grid DevTools. First thing that we can see is our grid, our grids. They're identified here in our elements view. And they're shown here by these little tabs. And if I click on a tab, it highlights the grid over on the left. And if I click again, it removes it. So I have an ability here to toggle the visibility of the grid. And let's see if I hover on it. Okay, so I've lost hover features of all of the children, but I have acquired a grid overlay. So if I click this one, I see it's my second grid overlay. Do I have any more grids? Let's explore. I do. I have another one right here. Okay, that one has some gap. Excellent. Now, if we look really closely, what we can see here is we have a solid border on our grid item. Let's just look at one. We have a solid border. We have dashed borders. And also, by the way, yours might look different than mine. I've already gone in and played with a bunch of settings. And that's essentially what I'm covering right now is what do I have showing? And then I'll show you where I toggled everything so you can go turn it on and off for yourself. I'm in here and all I have showing are the sizes of the tracks and the gaps. But there's more than that. The colors and the patterns that they are is something meaningful as well. So we have a solid border around the edge, and the solid border is our grid container. Our extended light gray lines, though, those are all of the lines of our grid being extended outside of itself so that we can verify additional alignment. And I think that's really, really nice. Notice they're a lighter color. So they're not primary information about the grid. This is like tertiary. This is metadata about it. Really cool. Big fan. VisBug, this is one of the main reasons to use VisBug is just to see extended grid lines. It's great. Okay, what else do we have here? We have our grid gap is shown. So in this case, it's a row gap, and that's nice. Okay, it's got the dashed lines. We also have dashed lines for each of our lines. So the lines in our grid have a dashed line. Okay, and they're not named or numbered. So you might see names or numbers in other tools, and we can turn on the names and numbers here, and we'll get there. So anyway, that's what I liked seeing. I liked sort of a minimal view with the extended grid lines. And let's go check out where I turned that stuff on. So if we go back into the settings, you can now see in the preferences down here in the bottom right, there are some grid preferences. So our grid border is solid. We have the options to change it to dashed or none. Our grid lines can be extended like we saw. They can be extended solid. They can be solid without extension, dashed without extension, and none. Our grid line labels can show their names, all numbers, negative numbers, positive numbers, and none. So if we go all numbers and we go toggle our grid on and off, we should see the line numbers like folks are probably wondering where they are. There they are. So there's our line numbers. Excellent. Okay, let's go back to the settings, scroll down here to the bottom right. We got our grid. And I'm going to go turn those to names. And here, let's go test that. I just got to toggle our grid on and off. Okay, so no lines are noticed here, but I do have some named ones on another grid, which I think is the body grid. Yes, okay, I have the stack there, but I have another one, I believe. Yeah, we have escape, and I bet you there's another one named here, and we can see that if we do this responsive menu here. Let that extend. Okay, so escape. Oh, we might need to re-show. No, okay. Pop this open. I thought this was the escape area here, but maybe not. Well, anyway, it's showing us named lines, and those named lines are over here. We should be able to see those in the side nav code. Yeah, right here. Grid, template, columns, nav, 2FR, escape, 1FR. So here's our 2FR, which is nav, is probably this label that's under here. And escape, I think escape should actually be named and labeled right here. So we might be seeing a bug because this would be where this is the close. This is the line where this is being named here. Escape 1FR. This is escape. So this just seems to be, well, anyway, I think we found an issue. Maybe, we'll see. So that would be named lines. We saw line numbers. What other settings do we have in here? Oh, look, when it's open this big, I don't have to scroll very far. We have grid areas and grid track sizes. Okay, so I'm enjoying the track sizes, but I suppose I can try turning those off and getting a good look at our grid. Okay, excellent. Oh, there's our stack. Yep, so that has two lines that are named, and they're both at pretty much the top left. They're both named stack. Oh, here we can see that in our CSS over here. Here's our grid, stack 1FR, and then our row is min content with another named line and row of 1FR. So that is manifested there. Okay, cool. So I'm going to go back in here. Let's turn on grid track sizes again. And I'm liking those settings. That seems nice. Let's go look at some other grids. So we have this one, and this is a layout that I made a while ago. It's a responsive layout. It's something I wanted to be very intrinsic, where the layout had this sort of like inside outward effect. And the way that I did that is that, well, anyway, I'll probably talk about it at some point. But you can see how it sort of continues to just leverage more of the space. These items were just the size that they were, and we'll continue to go in here. And this is a scroll snapping carousel where these items line up always on the left here, which is really cool. Excellent. Now, the other really fun part about this page is it's essentially grid from the top down. There's a couple of flexbox layouts specifically because notice how this hover effect is here. We don't want that to go all the way to the edge, and grid would turn this into like a full-on row. Unless we made these a child of another div, but anyway, it just kind of defeats the purpose at that point. So if we use flexbox, we can just have these things be intrinsic. So here, let's just look it up. Let's look. So see this aside, it's pretty much our only thing that is not a grid container. Oh, but look, even the little child elements here are grids. I think they're inline grids. Fun. So let's turn all these on. Let's just kind of check these out. Oh, notice how if we have no grids selected, we get the traditional highlight. I'm also here, now I'm in highlight mode. Notice I get the tooltip when I'm in highlight mode. This is highlight mode here. I hit the hotkey, but you can just initialize this mode. So we're seeing our track sizes and our grid gaps all together with our, look at that. That's a nice little screenshot. So we get to see the bounding box kind of size broken out into the layout with color contrast. And from LSC, we'll get color contrast if we get in this close. Yeah. Oh, look, I have some light gray there. It's too light. Same with this. Ooh, a little too light. All right, I'll have to go fix that up. But I like this view. That's really nice. Okay, let's hover up another grid and let's find another one. Okay, so what's fun about this mode is we are in like hyper highlight mode. This is like super active. We're seeing everything from gaps to, is this even gapped? I think that was actually distribution. See that space, that purple space in the center? I don't think that is a grid gap. That is space between. So we're in our header here, justify content space between. So what that teaches me is that the grid DevTools will show the space between items, not necessarily intelligently between gap or space between. It's just sort of painting what's there, which is interesting because I wonder if it could be made up of multiple things. Whatever, I'll think about that and see what happens. All right. Okay, that was cool. Let's see what else we got. This is our top level grid. So this is the grid on the body. I can see body in the bottom left there. And look at that. This is I would call this a macro layout. And what's nice about seeing this macro layout here, let's even just pull back. If we look at our body, we have 3 children, nav, H2, 4 children, nav, H2, main, and footer. Oh, footer's down here. Awesome. And what I like about this is our main grid layout is just a gap. Yeah, it's just kind of making sure there's consistent spacing between all of the dominant elements of the page. So cool. Let's turn that one on. Okay, and so since I have so much minimal stuff turned on, we just saw the gaps because all the edges are sort of covered. All right, let's turn on our nav. Yeah, this nav was really cool. Let's watch it fold down. I wonder how this does responsive, because I'd like to see these this grid collapse. Right, as these just start to, oh, look, it's just, okay, it's flexible. So what we had here is a min and a max flex space. I don't really know what these two labels are showing. Is it because this is on? Yeah, okay, let me turn that off. I'm trying to understand this grid right here. So we've got, okay, flexible space. How is this one, is this written with min max, this third search area? Here's our nav, turn on our grid. Our search is just a flex item. Our grid has it defined as, oh, tricky. So we have our rails, a min max. A min max is on 1000. Okay, we'll talk about that one in a second. Min max on the search. So I could even just name this really quick, right? I could call this search for like a debug purpose. And if I toggle the grid, does it show up? Oh, look, search is over here. It's not on the line I thought it would be at. It is. Oh yeah, because look, this is our search width. So we have a min max. We have a minimum of the min content. So it's like whatever the input is bringing. So it's probably gonna like collapse somewhere around that width. But our element width, which is coming in as var width, and I think if we hover over this custom property, yeah, it's 24 rem. Okay, so our custom property is saying maximum of 24 rem, which looks like it's computing to 384 pixels. I can see that right here. And as I collapse, we'll wait until we hit a minimum. Okay, and I see there was a media query responsive point here where I swapped out this element for an icon here. And did we see the space kind of shift? Yeah, we went from 80 pixels here. So this is, again, some intrinsic spacing here. This one is being sized intrinsically. It is 1FR. Okay, so this one is just flexible space. Those icons are just flex space. There we go. We added another icon. And here's where our name has gone responsive, because we've hit its sort of little maxima about its width when it's in a single line. But we said it's okay to collapse to your min content. And that would be that width right there. So we allowed it to go to 2 lines. And if we continue collapsing, our menu just kind of gets smaller and smaller. Okay. Cool. The grid tools did pretty good showing me all that. I would like to see search written in the right spot. I wonder if the bug is if they have to be named in a series. Let's see. So this one is let's just call this a gutter right now. Oh, it's a rail. Here, we'll call it a rail. Rail. And this next one is the brand. Call this brand. And the next one after that is search, which we've already named. And after search is icons, right? Icons. And after icons is another rail. Okay, we'll just let that sink in. It looks like my syntax is fine. I didn't see a live update on my grid. That's okay. And I turn it off and on, and I don't get what I thought I would get. it looks again like all of my labels have collapsed on top of themselves. Search here. If I search, does it? No. Let's go turn some settings on and off. So what I haven't covered yet is the ability for you to change settings from a hotkey. So let's talk about that. We've gone to the settings panel so far, but now we're going to use a hotkey, and that is Command-Shift-P. Command-Shift-P will open up the action panel where you can basically invoke functions and change things right here. Like you can take a screenshot. This is a really cool way to like capture an area screenshot or capture a node screenshot, like whatever you have in context. But what we want to do is look up grid, and here's all the grid options we have. So we have do not show shade grid gaps. Oh, so we can hide the highlighting of the grid in between there. I don't know if that was in the options either side. We'll have to go look. Do not show grid container border. No, we want to see that. So what we want to see is show solid green lines to extend to the other edge of the page. Interesting. Shade column gaps. So there's our gaps and all the shading. We want to, let's just show all grid lines and see what happens. Do we get our line names back? No, we get a whole bunch of numbers, but not a lot of line names. So here we'll go. Grid, oh. Do not, oh no, do not show. I'm gonna use the settings. Let's see. All numbers, we just want names. Okay. Let's even do an open and close just for funsies. Get our nav tested, and it's still trying to say searches over there. Okay, so, well, I guess I can't name those on the fly and debug them. I wonder, though. I wonder. Okay, what do we have over here? We've got our main grid, which is a grid template columns of 2 columns. We just have one that's set to sidebar width of 12 rem, which we're seeing here, and then a 1FR free space. And as I expand and contract, we see that being represented, but it just swapped. And, oh, we swapped, and I'm not a grid anymore. I'm now displaying my grid contents. Ah, that would explain why it kind of disappeared. And now we're seeing just this article as a top level child there. Cool. Cool though. Nice. Shrink this up a little bit. So anyway, we're just using the grid dev tools. Let's go somewhere else. Let's go somewhere new. So here is one that just kind of creates these demos where I was just building various grids and then wanting to test them to see sort of how they show. Hey, look at this one showing min max. It's actually showing me the min max but it didn't show me in this one. Right, that had a couple of min maxes in it. It hit a min max on this element and on this element, or on that track. Interesting. Okay, well, whatever. Oh, we'll get to that one soon. So here is this layout, and this does show us min max. In fact, it shows us our authored. Let's see, this is a grid template column. Yep. Okay, with a repeat. So it's hooking up our repeat with our authored values in there, 30 characters, 1FR, and it's telling us that that's computing to 338 pixels. That is some cool stuff right there. And I'm getting the super highlight, so I'm getting all of that information. But if I just click, right? Yes. Nice. I get some nice cross highlighting due to the transparency of the overlay. I'm pleased with that. And that looks really nice, right? I'm getting all the information that I need in just the right spot. And look at this, since they're intrinsic, they're taking the height of their tallest one, and these two had the same paragraph, which kind of yielded the same sized row, but it's just a coincidence. And this one down here shows you what really would have happened in case this was an odd set. Oh, like if we collapse a little? Right, see, there you go. It's not the first one setting it, it's the tallest one. And that's because it's auto, right? Yeah, our grid template rows don't say what height they are, so they're gonna be the height of the tallest item. They're intrinsic, they're auto. They're going to be looking inward for their own sizing, which is, I like designing that way. Okay, very cool. So that looks great. Let's turn that one off. It's kind of awkward when they're following me. Like that refresh rate is choppy. It's probably for performance reasons, and it's just kind of uncanny. It makes me wish it was just hidden when it scrolled. I don't know. Okay, let's look at this demo. Next one, we have a wrapping extrinsic centered elements grid. Okay, so this one sounds like it has a lot of alignment in this code here. Yeah, align items, justify items, place items, grid template rows, nothing too crazy. Although, yeah, and look, we see it. We see our authored and our computed values here. So extrinsic, that's because we set these things. We told these boxes what size to be, and that's why they're not the size of the content. Cool. Let's look at the next one. Navbar. Yes, so this was more of a macro layout. This was sort of a macro layout, right? These are layouts that have layouts inside of them. This one, though, we're creeping on the micro layout scenario here. And what are our styles? We've got grid autoflow column. Okay, so we're just saying display grid and then put me into a set of columns. Just cast everything to the right in this scenario. We'll set a gap of 1 rem. We can see that 1 rem gap here. So between this item and that item. So we have 3 children. Oh, yep, they're clearly labeled here. Oh, and there, look, I could go read this from the overlay and not have to go look at the code. Okay, I need to just start switching where my brain looks because most of what I need is right here. This first item is auto. So whatever this SVG is sized, that's the size of that column. We get a gap amount of space here. So we're being consistent with our space from here to here. We have a flexible space. So this is our flex 2 item. So if we were using flex, we'd probably want to give this one flex 2. So it was a dominant sort of filler in the space here. But in this case, we can just say 1FR and it will fill a space. And that calculates to 1200 pixels. We've got a gap between the end of it and the next set of links that close up our bar here, and those are set to auto. So whatever these are sized at, these will go. So if I use VisBug and I grab these items here, hit F on the keyboard, and I bump up their font size, very cool. I don't know where that, well, anyway, there's those. Put the font size down. Right, so since it's auto-sized, it doesn't care or know what's going on there. In fact, here, let's just kind of make this a little cleaner. Thin out that font. Nice. Okay, close VisBug. That is that grid. Awesome. And here's this one. This kind of a classic masonry example. Oh, I get the super highlight here. Highlight my children. Right, so the way that I pulled this off, this grid, is that you set a grid of like kind of fixed rows and columns. And here we can see in the way that it's defined, let's just start pivoting where we look, right? We have a min max of 20 viewport width there. And then otherwise a flexible grid space. So I'm assuming then that this one goes all the way down. These things try to get really tiny, but it looks like they struggle. So this grid isn't perfect, okay? Let's go back to seeing the grid up here. Yeah, okay. Oh, now that I have the grid showing, I can't highlight any children, so I can unselect that. And then, unselect. Oh, I'm not in the highlight scenario, but I am hovering on the elements. Okay, I'm back in the hover, back hover highlighting. Back getting the grid hover. Okay, because I can see the children spanning 2. So the way that it is, you span 2, like just like the attribute says here, I'm specifying a row and a height to span. So if we look at our grid, and this one is spanning 2 on the row and 2 on the column, that's why it is so big. It's a dominant item because it's consuming 2 columns, consuming 2 rows, and being drawn on that space. And we can see this grid being laid out that way. So kind of cool. Shrink this up and see our DevTools more. Oh, nice. Styles really expanded there. Cool. And our last one. All right, look, this one says microgrids. I'll just look at this one. If I remember right, this one just looks cool to like turn everything on. So I'll turn all of the grids on. Nice. And just kind of, observe how the spacing is. Some of these get a little tight, like down there. But I love seeing these equal gaps. It feels very much like harmony. I get to see where the text is bumping up against in the lines here, which is really interesting. CSS's text boxes, but we have vertical alignment here, so it's no big deal. This looks really harmonious and nice. Lots and lots of verification here. Lots of little information for me to go decide if I'm pleased with this layout or not. Cool. All right, let's do one more just fun one, which is right here. Right, this little thing I'm working on, this like a code pen, debugging it using the Grid DevTools. And that's just cool. Oh, look at the perf. It's choking. Oh, perf is back. Perf is gone. Min-max 16v min, otherwise 1FR. I think this one collapses down to... No, look, another one that like a min-max isn't actually shrinking us at different viewports. It's kind of a bummer. Look at that resize though. Even though it's like animating, that was really smooth. Here, I have a fun button here. Finish. Yay! Completion. All right, well, that is it. I hope you had fun watching all of these like little demos about using the Grid DevTools inside of Chrome Canary. So again, in case you're wondering what happens, you got to go get the yellow Chrome installation called Chrome Canary. Open that up. Spin up the DevTools, make sure you enable the experiments. Then you need to go into the experiments and enable the CSS Grid DevTool experiments. And at that point, you'll finally have all the options to toggle things on and off. And you'll see those little tabs inside of the Elements panel. Go nuts, leave comments, tweet me. Let's figure this out and make sure they're really nice and find all of its little rough edges. And I hope this was informative and you had a good time. Take care. Have a good weekend. Bye.